I found myself in the doctor's waiting area, perched on a hard seat when my cell buzzed to life. It was Angela, my sole child. Her tone came across oddly detached, nearly icy, as she announced, "Mother, we're heading off to Europe starting tomorrow. I've already offloaded your seaside cottage and the vehicle. Cash was essential. Goodbye." Then she simply disconnected. After 4.5 decades of nurturing her, giving up so much on her behalf, she'd tossed me aside like trash. Yet I drew in a steadying breath and managed a grin, for my precious girl remained unaware of a key detail. I'm Antonia Brooks, 71 years young. Right up to that instant, I'd assumed I truly understood my own flesh and blood. 6 months earlier, I'd lost my spouse to widowhood. Robert had suffered a fatal cardiac event right during our morning meal, a ritual we'd upheld daily for 45 years. That very day, he'd prepared my coffee laced with cream alongside buttered toast. As per custom, he'd planted a kiss on my brow and murmured, "Morning, darling." Those turned out to be his final utterances. From that point on, Angela seemed more involved in my daily world. At least that's what I figured. She'd drop by thrice weekly. She assisted with the burial preparations and tagged along on my market runs. She even urged a routine medical exam. "You must look after yourself more now that solitude's your companion," she'd remark, flashing what I mistook for affection but now recognized as self-serving. That coastal retreat had served as our haven for ages. Robert and I acquired it back when Angela hit 15 through relentless effort and personal costs. Each summer brought us there to forge lasting recollections, marking anniversaries and holidays. Angela introduced her suitors and eventually her partner Edward. I'd prepare meals for the group, tidy up, and handle the washing. It formed our cherished clan ritual. I'd never envisioned her viewing it merely as a financial asset. As for the vehicle, that vintage Ford truck Robert tended like a family member. Every Sunday he'd give it a thorough clean, swap the lubricant with devotion, and secure it beneath the tree's canopy in its usual place. Angela was fully aware of its significance to me. It represented the final remnant of him I possessed. His aroma still clung to the upholstery. Once she ended the call, I remained seated in that stiff, lime-hued plastic seat, amid fellow patients with ailments. And for the initial time in months, tears didn't well up. An unusual shift stirred within. A serenity absent since Robert's departure washed over me. For in that instant, a long-buried memory resurfaced. 3 days prior to his passing, Robert had passed me a beige folder. "Antonia, stash this in your bureau's compartment. Should misfortune strike me, wait to unseal it until you're prepared." I tucked it away casually. Amid the post-service sorrow and logistics, it slipped my mind entirely. Yet it lingered at the residence, poised for retrieval. The attendant summoned me into the consultation room. The physician assessed me and declared my condition solid for someone my age, advising extra downtime and improved nutrition. I acknowledged with a nod and a polite smile, though my thoughts wandered far. They fixated on that folder, on the chill in Angela's delivery, and on Edward's likely role in the scheme. He'd always resented my presence, treating me like an irritation. Departing the clinic, I strolled leisurely toward the transit halt. Angela had apparently stripped me of wheels. But while lingering there, a subtle amusement crept in. Irony laced the whole affair. My offspring believed she'd stripped me bare. Unbeknownst to her, though, Robert, my devoted Robert, had forever been a forward thinker. The transport pulled up and I claimed a spot near the pane. I gazed at the urban blur unfolding. Residences, shops, folks hurrying along, each bearing private sorrows and hidden truths. Mine awaited unveiling as well. Arriving home, I headed directly to the bedroom. I pulled open the bureau section, spotting the beige folder right where I'd placed it. My fingers quivered faintly as I lifted it. I sensed multiple papers within. Robert had inscribed my name across it in his precise script. I settled onto the mattress we'd occupied together for countless years and inhaled deeply. Dusk was settling beyond the windows, casting the home in those recognizable dimness that no longer unnerved me. I unsealed the folder deliberately, akin to unveiling a present for my birthday. Its contents promised to alter my world utterly. The revelation within that folder left me breathless. It held official papers, titles, financial statements, and a personal note penned by Robert. Tears brimmed as I scanned his recognizable penmanship. Dearest Antonia, should these words reach you, I'm gone from your side. Pardon me for withholding details in life. I aim to shield you from stress. Across the years, I channeled our funds into real estate and ventures. The seaside spot isn't our sole holding. We own 6 additional sites, among them the complex housing Angela and Edward, plus stakes in 3 firms valued beyond measure. You're wealthy, my heart. Ever have been, yet now it's documented formally. My fingers shook as I sifted through the paperwork. It included property titles for homes scattered across various urban districts, a sleek condominium in the heart of the city, a modest seaside inn, and yes, the towering 20-story residential tower where my daughter resided. For the last decade, Robert had quietly held ownership, though he'd registered it all under an unfamiliar corporation. And per the records, I stood as the exclusive heir to that entity. There were also statements from bank accounts I'd been oblivious to, showing balances that felt downright fantastical. Robert had spent 40 years behind the wheel of a bus, yet evidently he'd doubled as a shrewd financier. Every bit we'd scrimped and every hardship we'd endured, he'd quietly grown in the background without me ever suspecting a thing. In his note, Robert revealed why he'd hidden it all. To spare me fretting over finances or to keep Angela in the dark about our true wealth. You see, with our girl Antonia, if she realized the extent of our fortune, her perspective might shift entirely. He wanted her affection rooted in our true selves, not our assets. How twisted that turned out. Our child had walked away believing us destitute, while we'd actually possessed abundance. That evening, sleep eluded me entirely. I wandered the rooms, running my fingers over the worn furnishings and the trinkets Angela had forever dismissed as passé. I gazed at the framed family snapshots on the walls, lingering on the one capturing her at age 5, perched on Robert's knee and beaming with joy. What happened to that innocent child? At what point did she turn distant, so pragmatic and detached? Come morning. The telephone buzzed early. Angela was on the line once more. Her tone carried a gentler edge this time, though I'd grown cautious of such sudden warmth. Mom, you okay? Just calling to say we've wired the proceeds from the house and car. Your portion's in your account now. It isn't a fortune, but it should tide you over for several months until you settle into something more compact. My portion, I replied evenly, steadying my breath. Yeah, Mom. We weren't about to abandon you completely. We allocated 30% your way. Sounds equitable, doesn't it? We're channeling the rest into our European venture. Edwards lined up a phenomenal deal abroad. 30% of what belonged to me. Such benevolence. I understand, dear. And your departure? This afternoon. Luggage is ready to go. We'll be away no less than 6 months, possibly longer if things pan out. But don't fret, Mom. Upon our return, we'll assist in locating a cozy spot, one suited to your lifestyle. Suited to my lifestyle, as if she grasped my realities. All right, Angela, safe travels. Oh, Mom, I figured you'd get it. You're always so understanding. We adore you. Then she disconnected. I remained frozen, receiver clutched in my grip. And for the first time in ages, laughter bubbled up from me. I chuckled as I hadn't since Robert's passing. The whole affair struck me as utterly ridiculous, almost farcical. My own daughter had swindled me, evicted me from our home, spoken down to me with infuriating pity, all to bankroll some overseas escapade bound to flop. Yet the cash wasn't what stung deepest. It was her effortless dismissal of me. 45 years poured into her, endless devotion, self-denial, boundless caring, and she'd wipe me away in a fleeting conversation. That cut to the core. I logged into my online banking. True to form, they'd forwarded a sum that might have felt ample to them, but to me it rang hollow, insulting. They'd offloaded the coastal property well below market value, no doubt rushing for liquidity, and fetched scraps for Robert's pickup. That very afternoon, peering from my vantage by the pane, I observed Angela and Edward stowing their bags in a taxi. He hauled a pair of oversized cases. Hers was a stylish overnight duffel that screamed luxury. I saw them giggling, embracing, scheming aloud. They resembled eager kids embarking on a thrill. Not once did they glance my way, offer a farewell. As the vehicle pulled off, I settled at the table in the kitchen, nursing tea while Robert's files lay arrayed before me. Choices loomed. I could summon an attorney, seize back my holdings, reverse their grabs, but instinct whispered of a wiser path, one more instructive. So I dialed Mr. Peterson, the attorney who'd managed Robert's estate. He'd attended the service, offered sympathies, and urged me to reach out anytime. Now was that time. "Mrs. Brooks, delightful to hear your voice. Holding up all right?" "Quite well, Mr. Peterson. I require your counsel right away. I've uncovered Robert's papers that puzzle me. By all means, stop by the office first thing tomorrow. I'll be there." That night, after months of unrest, I finally rested deeply. In my slumber, Robert appeared, ensconced in his cherished armchair, perusing the daily news as he did each dawn. Spotting me, he grinned and murmured, "Finally, darling. Finally, you're claiming your ground." I stirred awake with an unfamiliar sensation, not pure joy precisely, but free of the lingering grief that had weighed me down. It hadn't been months of mere persistence, though. It felt more like unyielding resolve. For the first time after losing Robert, I possessed a definite goal. I intended to reclaim what belonged to me, though not through the path Angela had anticipated. The following day, I took extra time selecting my outfit. I chose the deep red gown that Robert once complimented for giving me a refined air. I styled my hair neatly and applied a touch of cosmetics. Glancing at my reflection, I recognized a version of myself, long absent, a resilient figure. Mr. Peterson's workplace sat in the heart of the city, housed in a vintage yet sophisticated structure featuring polished stone tiles and expansive panes of glass. He welcomed me with a friendly grin, but his face shifted dramatically once I presented the paperwork. "Mrs. Brooks, this exceeds what I had pictured. Robert truly was a clever individual. See here, based on these records, you're the proprietor of." "I realize that, Mr. Peterson. I've gone over them myself. The key question is, what steps can I take within the law?" Mr. Peterson outlined that all was properly arranged, the files authentic, and I held legitimate claim to those assets. He further verified a hunch I'd harbored. Angela's transaction for the seaside property was invalid since she lacked authority to dispose of it. We could reclaim the residence right away, Mrs. Brooks, and initiate proceedings against your daughter for deception. "No, Mr. Peterson. I'm not interested in pursuing charges. I'd prefer a different approach. For the moment, I'd like this kept under wraps. Are you able to assist?" He regarded me with intrigue, yet agreed with a nod. "Certainly. As your attorney, that's my role. How can I support you? I require you to quietly retrieve the coastal home, handle whatever's required to void that bogus transfer, and aid me in securing firm authority over my holdings, particularly the structure housing my daughter." "I see. It'll involve a procedure spanning several weeks, but it's entirely achievable. Ideal, and Mr. Peterson, ensure nobody discovers my involvement, at least initially." As I exited his space, a sensation washed over me like emerging from an extended slumber. I strolled the urban avenues, observing the crowds, the architecture, the everyday rhythm pulsing onward. Yet for me, the world had transformed entirely. I now had a strategy. The ensuing days marked the most peculiar phase of my existence. Publicly, I remained the destitute spouse forsaken by her child. Privately, though, I was a wealthy figure covertly directing the restoration of my fortune. Mr. Peterson operated with precision, phoning periodically to report on the advancement of the formalities. I opted to remain in my dwelling for now. It was rightfully mine, despite Angela likely assuming I'd retreat to a solitary space. Each dawn I'd rise, share a meal at the familiar dining spot where Robert and I had spent countless moments, then venture out for a neighborhood ramble. Locals approached me blending sympathy with inquisitiveness, the sort they offer fresh mourners. One evening, as I tended to the garden shrubs out front, my enduring acquaintance Aurora drew near. "Antonia, darling, is it accurate that Angela jetted off to Europe, leaving you by yourself?" "Indeed, Aurora. She traveled with Edward. They have ventures planned abroad. And how will you manage, honey? We realize Robert left scant funds." "If only you understood," I mused inwardly. "No need to fret, Aurora. I'll manage. Do you require assistance? I could drop off meals or assist with shopping. That's thoughtful of you, but truly I'm okay." Aurora eyed me with that familiar gaze, the very one from post-burial encounters, empathy intertwined with subtle gratitude that misfortune had spared her. "All right, you know my door's open if anything arises." Such exchanges recurred endlessly. With the meat vendor, the bread maker, the shopkeeper nearby, each addressed me in that gentle manner reserved for the downtrodden, and I'd acknowledge, grin, express gratitude for their worry. Yet inwardly, some aspect of me relished the charade. It resembled inhabiting dual realities. One midweek dawn, Mr. Peterson reached out. "Mrs. Brooks, positive developments. I've managed to invalidate the coastal properties transfer. The purchasers were unaware of the irregularity, so their refund proceeded smoothly. The place is back in your possession." "Outstanding, Mr. Peterson. Regarding the edifice Angela occupies, that's trickier. Formally, you've retained ownership via the firm, but administrative adjustments are needed for your immediate oversight. Expect that in about 2 more weeks. Splendid. Stay in touch." After the call, I lingered in the cooking area with my brew, pondering Angela. She'd been overseas for 3 weeks without a single outreach. No ring, no note, not even a greeting card. To her, I'd vanished once she secured the funds she craved, but I sensed that dynamic would shift imminently. I resolved to inspect the seaside dwelling. I boarded the transit to the shoreline, retracing the path Robert and I had followed innumerable times. The house looked just as it always had in my mind, compact, coated in a soft cream hue, with a veranda facing the sea. The current residents had added a few container gardens along the walkway, but aside from that, nothing had changed. I perched on the sidewalk opposite and gazed at it for a full hour. Memories flooded back of those warm summer days when Angela was young, dashing along the shore and constructing sand forts. Robert tending to fresh catch on the grill as I prepared fresh greens indoors. Angela inviting pals over, then dates, and eventually Edward. All those joyful times she'd boiled down to nothing more than a quick financial exchange. An elderly man emerged from the front door and noticed me there. He walked over, intrigued. "Everything all right, Mrs.?" "Yeah, thanks. Just reminiscing." I was acquainted with the previous folks, indeed, quite closely. Such a pity about the circumstances. They mentioned the older woman was gravely ill and had to offload it in a hurry. We figured it was a bargain, but the deal fell through legally. We ended up returning the property. "Were you close to them?" "Not directly. It all went through agents, but we heard the daughter was managing it all since the mom was unable. Truly heartbreaking." "If only you grasped the full depth of the sorrow," I mused. "Anyway, at least you avoided any financial hit." "Right. Fortunately, it all resolved nicely, though now we're back to hunting for a new place. We were quite taken with this one." I departed feeling weighed down inside. The sting went beyond the cash. It was how effortlessly Angela had fabricated lies about me. She'd invented tales of my frailty. She'd exploited my imagined weakness to excuse her moves. To her, I wasn't someone with emotions, just a barrier to clear away. That evening, I rang Mr. Peterson once more. Mr. Peterson, I require your assistance on another matter. I'd like to reclaim Robert's pickup as well. That'll prove tougher, Mrs. Brooks. The vehicle was registered under you, yet your daughter held a durable power of attorney permitting the sale. How could that happen? It seems you granted that authority several months back, following your spouse's passing. Does that ring a bell? That marked the instant Angela began scheming it all. I dimly recalled affixing my signature to documents she'd presented, claiming they streamlined the burial and estate processes. Grief had clouded my judgment so thoroughly that I endorsed them unread. How trusting I'd been. I see, Mr. Peterson. Any chance of recovering it? We could pursue it, though it'll involve more hurdles. We'd have to demonstrate the power was obtained via misrepresentation or pressure. Let's proceed. I intend to retrieve every item they swiped from me. In the ensuing weeks, I settled into an odd daily pattern. Come morning, I played the role of the bereaved spouse the community recognized. I'd shop for essentials, chat with folks nearby, and sustain the facade. Yet by afternoon, I transformed into a shrewd operator. I'd pore over Robert's records, confer with Mr. Peterson, and strategize ahead. I picked up financial insights I'd never imagined requiring. It turned out Robert had far more acumen than I'd realized. Each of his ventures was meticulously strategized. Take the structure where Angela resided. It didn't merely yield from leases. It sat in a zone surging in value. I also uncovered that Edward, her spouse, was saddled with substantial liabilities. He'd secured borrowings against their residence as security. Unaware, he held no true title. Once the lenders caught on, he'd face major repercussions. One Friday, Mr. Peterson phoned with key updates. Mrs. Brooks, the documents are complete. You now possess full authority over your assets. Plus, I've secured Robert's truck. The purchaser happened to be a contact of mine, and after I outlined the issue, he consented to relinquish it for modest reimbursement. Outstanding effort, Mr. Peterson. One final favor, draft a notice to my daughter. What sort? A notice to vacate. A pause hung on the line. Mrs. Brooks, are you certain about this step? Absolutely. She deemed me irrelevant in her world. Now she'll learn my true significance. Understood. Shall I forward it overseas? No. Deliver it upon her return. I suspect that'll be imminent. My intuition proved spot on. That very afternoon, Aurora rushed over with the latest local buzz. Antonia heard about Edward's bank woes. My sister's husband, who's on staff there, says they're probing loans he obtained, pledging their flat as guarantee. Turns out it's not in his possession. Is that so? Indeed. And word is Angela was in the dark. They're expecting her to rush home from Europe to untangle the chaos. Quite the tangle. Yeah. And the kicker. Evidently, Edward deceived her regarding the European venture. No enterprise was involved. He simply aimed to flee the debts piling up here. Ideal. Things were progressing just as I'd anticipated. Angela had placed her faith in Edward, had thrown away our bond for his sake, and now she was realizing he wasn't the person she'd imagined. That evening, I settled on the veranda with a mug of herbal tea, gazing up at the constellations. Robert once claimed the stars represented the spirits of those who'd led complete lives, keeping vigil over their loved ones from above. If that held any truth, then he was among them, observing as his scheme played out flawlessly. "Thanks, darling," I murmured to the heavens. "Thanks for protecting me long after you're gone." The following morning, Mr. Peterson reached out to me at dawn. "Mrs. Brooks, I've got updates. Your daughter has just landed in the nation. She's at the terminal by herself." By herself. Indeed. It seems Edward remained overseas. Word is they had a massive argument. I get it. Have you dispatched the note? I'll handle it this afternoon. She ought to get it by tomorrow. I ended the call and lingered in the kitchen, a blend of anxiety and eagerness washing over me. Following weeks of quiet scheming, the time for the initial decisive action had come at last. Angela was on the verge of learning that her mother wasn't the helpless casualty she'd assumed. She made it to her flat on Tuesday evening. I learned this from Aurora, who appeared to have eyes everywhere in the area. She stopped by the next morning to inform me, "Antonia, your girl returned yesterday evening. I spotted her entering with a single bag, but she appeared dreadful, ashen-faced, with shadows beneath her eyes, like she'd wept throughout the journey. Solo, utterly solo. And oddly enough, Antonia, when the concierge inquired about her keys, she didn't have them. She had to summon the building manager to gain entry using the spare set. Fascinating. Edward must have held on to the keys, suggesting he'd chosen not to return. Or perhaps Angela uncovered some secret about him and bolted. Either way, my child was home, and shortly she'd unwrap my modest greeting present. That afternoon, Mr. Peterson rang again. "Mrs. Brooks, the correspondence was handed over an hour back. The porter verified that your daughter accepted it directly." "Excellent. What deadline did we set?" 30 days to clear out the premises following protocol. "But Mrs. Brooks, are you certain about proceeding? She's family, after all." Mr. Peterson. My own child ousted me from our home via a brief call. She auctioned off my belongings without a word. She discarded me like trash. Now she'll grasp that choices carry repercussions. Understood. I merely wish to confirm you'd weighed every angle. I've pondered them thoroughly, Mr. Peterson. Every single one. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay alert, picturing Angela's reaction upon scanning the missive. First the bewilderment, followed by denial, then sheer alarm. She'd likely dismiss it as an error, some fraudster's ploy. Yet once she dialed to confirm, she'd find it all above board. Come morning, precisely as though anticipating my outreach, the line buzzed at 8 a.m. sharp. Angela was on the other end, her tone frantic. Mom, we have to speak right away." "Morning, sweetheart. How did the trip to Europe go?" "Mom, that's not the priority now." "Yesterday, a bizarre notice arrived. It demands I leave the apartment within 30 days. Surely it's an error, isn't it? Any idea about this? An eviction order. Odd indeed. Issued by whom? Some firm I've never encountered. Hold on, let me grab the paper. Robert Investments, Inc. Ring any bells?" Robert had named the entity after himself. So fitting. No, dear. That name's unfamiliar to me. Is the document authentic? That's my goal to uncover. Mom, please assist me. I'm lost here. Edward stranded me abroad. He vanished with another lady, and now I return to this mess. Nothing makes sense. There it was. The proof. Edward had deserted her. Likely once funds dried up or he grasped the depth of troubles awaiting back home. Poor Angela. She'd forsaken her kin for a man of no value. "I'm truly sorry, love. Where are you at the moment?" "In the apartment, though who knows for how much longer." "Mom, may I visit? I need someone to confide in. No one else remains." The twist was exquisite. Now stripped of the fellow who'd prompted her to forsake me, she recalled her mother's existence. "Naturally, dear. Stop by any time. I'm heading there now." I set down the receiver and examined my reflection. This act demanded flawlessness. I selected my subdued gray outfit, secured my hair in a neat chignon, and rehearsed the face of a concerned yet accepting parent. Upon Angela's arrival, she'd encounter precisely the fragile, forsaken widow she'd envisioned, betrayed by her daughter. She showed up an hour behind schedule. When I swung the door open, the sight of her hit me hard. She appeared utterly worn down. She'd shed pounds, sported dark shadows beneath her eyes, and her fancy outfits hung loose and disheveled. Her gaze was puffy from all the weeping. "Mom," she uttered, and I half expected her to wrap her arms around me, but she froze, as though the bitter fallout between us rushed back. "Step inside, sweetheart. Care for a cup of coffee?" "Sure, thanks." We settled at the kitchen table, the very spot where I'd pored over Robert's papers just weeks earlier. Angela seemed diminished in that seat, adrift, reminiscent of her childhood days when she'd shuffle in to confess her troubles at school. "Mom, I'm truly sorry for how I stormed off. I realize I mistreated you." "That's behind us, dear." "No, it isn't. I was cruel. I hurled awful words at you." And her voice cracked there. "And now I've got nobody left." what went down with Edward. He bolted with a 25-year-old waitress from a Paris hotel. Turns out the whole Europe trip was bogus, no business at all. He just needed to dodge the mounting debts back home and dip into the cash from selling your place to bankroll his fling. All those debts. Yeah, Mom, piles of them. He'd been borrowing for years, pledging the apartment we shared as security. But get this, he didn't even own it. How could that happen? This was my chance to play it cool. Not sure, honey, real estate stuff gets messy. The issue now is the bank's hounding me for his mess. They claim that because we tied the knot, I'm on the hook too. And then there's this eviction warning on top of it all. Mom, I'm lost. I have no cash, no work, no roof over my head. Tears streamed down her face, raw and frantic. For an instant, my maternal instincts tugged at me. I ached to pull her close, soothe her, promise it'd all sort out. But memories flooded in. The icy tone she'd used from the clinic, how effortlessly she'd cast me aside, speaking to me like I was dead weight. Did you consult a lawyer on that notice? Can't afford one, Mom. We blew through everything in Europe. Edward snatched the scraps when he ditched me for her. So, what's your next move? No clue, I figured. Maybe I could crash here temporarily, just till I land a gig and snag a tiny spot of my own. There it was, the plea I'd anticipated. After shoving me from my home, auctioning my belongings, handling me like trash, she expected me to bail her out now. She hoped the destitute widow she'd forged would shield her from her own fallout. Absolutely, dear. This will always be your place. Angela's eyes widened in shock, like she hadn't anticipated such quick mercy. For real, Mom, after all we've been through. You're my girl, Angela. Nothing alters that. She rose and embraced me then, a frantic grip from someone sinking and grasping at any lifeline. I returned it, yet without the pure devotion of old. This time, my hold carried intent. Tactics. Thanks, Mom. I'll hunt for work right away. I won't weigh you down. Don't stress over it yet. Take it easy, heal up, and we'll figure out your paths forward. That afternoon, Angela headed out to grab a few items from her flat. I lingered in the kitchen, mulling how smoothly it had unfolded. She'd arrived precisely as I'd orchestrated, shattered, out of moves, clueless to my role. In her eyes, I remained the pitiful, forsaken mom craving her pity. But this was merely the opener in my scheme. Letting her bunk with me opened the door to the following act. I'd allow her to nestle in, gain a sense of security, convinced she'd discovered sanctuary under my roof. Then, at the most unexpected moment, I'd show her the chasm between voluntary hardship and the kind forced upon you. That evening, I rang up Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson, I've got another task for you. What is it, Mrs. Brooks? Dig into Edward's obligations. I need the full breakdown, who he owes what, and my legal avenues to detach them from Angela. It'll require some effort, but doable. Excellent. And keep it under wraps, Mr. Peterson. No leaks about my involvement. Naturally, Mrs. Brooks. Mind if I inquire about your endgame? It's straightforward, Mr. Peterson. I'll pull my daughter through, but first, she needs to grasp the depths of true despair. As I ended the call, I uncorked a bottle of the fine wine Robert had stashed for milestones. It'd been ages since I'd savored a triumph like this. The match was afoot, and after months of setbacks, the winning hand was mine. The following day, Angela hauled in 2 bags and a battered box, remnants of her former world. I observed as she sorted through them in her childhood bedroom. The sit was one of those old beds from her teen days that she was crashing on now, and the shame showed in every awkward shift she made. She dropped from a swanky high-rise apartment down to holing up in her old kid's room. "Mom, I came across this in the flat," she mentioned, holding out a plain envelope. "It was tucked in with Edward's stuff. Your name's on it." Another of Robert's envelopes. My pulse quickened, though I stayed calm on the surface. My name. That's odd. Yeah, check it out. She handed it over. Sure enough, my name was scrawled there in Robert's familiar script. but this one differed from the envelope I'd discovered in my bureau. It was tinier, fresher looking. Perhaps Edward stumbled on it while sorting through Dad's belongings after he passed and just overlooked passing it along. Angela suggested, "Could be. Mind if I take a peek?" I unsealed it right there with her watching. Out came a brief note and a tiny key. The note read, "Antonia, if you're seeing this after getting the primary envelope, it signals our girl is facing tough times. This key unlocks a safe deposit box at the downtown Central Bank branch, box number 247. Inside, you'll find items that could assist you in supporting her, but handle them with care. All my everlasting affection, Robert." Angela scanned the note, peering over my shoulder. A safe deposit box. Dad had kept one hidden. News to me. Me too. I fibbed. "Your dad never breathed a word about it to me. Should we head over and check it out?" "Not sure, sweetie. Perhaps it's smarter to let sleeping dogs lie." "But Mom, what if there's crucial stuff inside? Papers or who knows, valuables that might pull us through." Her plea carried a raw edge of urgency. Angela was grasping at any straw for escape from her mess, and I figured I'd let her hold on a bit more before unveiling the full truth. "All right," I replied after a deliberate hesitation. "Let's plan for tomorrow." That evening marked our first shared meal in ages. She'd whipped up the dishes, aiming to pitch in, yet every bite carried the flavor of remorse and despair. She opened up about the European fiasco, with each tale darker than the previous. Edward deceived me on all fronts. Mom, not only the business side, but the loans as well. I figured he was just short a modest sum, but nope, he's buried under more than $100,000. And the kicker. He slapped my name on several without a hint to me. How on earth? He faked my sign-off. Back when we tied the knot, I handed him papers to manage our shared bank stuff. Never dreamed he'd twist them like that. Got proof you were clueless. No clue. It's a total tangle. The lenders insist that marriage ties me to every dime he owes regardless. What about splitting up? Haven't a trace of Edward anymore. He up and vanished. Phone's dead. Emails bounce back. Zilch. Like he evaporated into thin air. Ideal. Edward had bolted like the coward he'd proven to be, dumping all the fallout on Angela by herself. In a twisted sense, he'd handed me a gift. My daughter was now tasting the same sting I'd endured when he ditched me years ago. Total faith shattered by betrayal. I'm truly sorry, dear. Had no inkling it was this dire. Neither did I, Mom. I believed Edward cherished me, that we'd craft a life side by side, but really, I was just a convenient mark for his cash grabs and paperwork schemes. Tears welled up in Angela again. How could I be such a fool? Why didn't I spot his true colors? It would have been easy to confess I'd clocked the red flags early on, that I'd urged her Edward struck me as shady from the start, but that would have shattered my role as the caring, fragile parent. Sometimes love clouds judgment, sweetheart. Cut yourself some slack. But Mom, it's not only my life I wrecked. I dragged yours down too. I was awful to you. Snatched your home, your vehicle, your belongings, all to hand over to a guy who bailed at the drop of a hat. Here we are, a pair of broke ladies scraping by, all my doing. Water under the bridge, Angela. We'll pull through. No, it isn't. My blunders have us both cornered now. You forfeited everything from Dad, and I torpedoed my union and prospects. Just us, scraping by in poverty. If only she realized, I mused, that right then I commanded wealth beyond her wildest dreams, owned the very structure housing her, and could fix her woes with one quick call. But the moment hadn't arrived. Come morning, we made our way to the bank. Angela buzzed with anxiety and faint optimism. I played the part of the befuddled, grieving spouse, hazy on money matters. The teller guided us to the vault area, checked my identification, and accessed compartment 247. Within lay gems, aplenty. Rings, chains, bangles, studs. Some I knew as family treasures from Robert's lineage. Others were total mysteries. Accompanying it all was a document detailing each item's backstory and rough worth. Angela gasped. Ed. Mom, this has to be incredibly valuable. You agree? Absolutely. Check out that emerald in the pearl necklace. Mom, Dad really preserved a gem here. From Robert's note, the jewelry was valued at around $200,000. That was a hefty sum, yet it paled in comparison to the bulk of my wealth. It felt like discovering a handful of change beneath the couch cushions when your account holds $1 million. What should we do with it, Mom? I'm not sure, sweetie. These are cherished family keepsakes. Still, Mom, we might sell a few items. The cash could help you reclaim your beach home, and I'd settle some of Edward's obligations. There it went once more. Even discovering something precious, Angela's initial instinct was to figure out how it could fix the messes Edward had made. She still hadn't grasped the lesson. Are you certain you wish to dip into your father's legacy to cover Edward's burdens? What alternatives do I have, Mom? If I don't settle a portion shortly, the lenders will seize it all. And legally, nothing's in my name. Everything stands under Edward's. Ponder this deeply, dear. Once those gems are sold, they're gone forever. I get that, but what's my other path? I can't land employment amid these ongoing lawsuits. No company wants to bring on someone tangled in so much litigation. We brought the jewels back home. Angela laid them across the dining table and inspected each piece, figuring out which to offload and which to hold on to. It hurt to see her boil down generations of heritage into mere figures in a ledger. Mom, I believe I can fetch $180,000 from the jewelry, she mentioned one afternoon, tallying the potential proceeds on the table. It's below what I hoped, but sufficient for the pressing liabilities. Are you positive about proceeding? I have no alternative. Without a payment soon, they'll take it all. This place might even be vulnerable if they link me legally to the assets. The irony stung. Angela fretted over losing a property that was mine, using funds from gems tied to the man who'd built the empire that might rescue her, to clear debts from the guy who ditched her. And how will you choose the priorities for repayment? I consulted a no-cost advisor at the bank. She advised focusing on secured loans first, since those threaten assets or spark quick repossessions. Angela had grown tremendously in these short weeks. The same woman who'd offloaded my belongings without a word to me now scrutinized every fiscal choice. The hardship had built her accountability, though it left her more vulnerable too. That evening, as she sorted the loan papers on the table, my phone rang from Mr. Peterson. Mrs. Brooks, I've compiled a complete dossier on Edward's liabilities. It's grimmer than anticipated. How much grimmer? He's in hock for more than $200,000 across multiple institutions, plus obligations to individual creditors. More alarming, he forged papers bearing your daughter's name on certain advances. That binds Angela legally. It's intricate. If we demonstrate her ignorance, perhaps we can extricate her from portions. But it'll drag on and cost a bundle. How much for a skilled attorney in such matters? Likely $50,000, with no assured outcome. I see. And if she simply settles them? If funds are available, it'd resolve quickest, though I suspect she lacks that sum. Mr. Peterson, arrange every required paperwork to free my daughter from these entanglements, but keep it from her for now. You're covering it, Mrs. Brooks. I'll take any steps needed to shield my girl, but this demands precise handling. After the call, I spotted Angela in the den, gazing at the gems with a forlorn look. She seemed adrift, like a kid who'd shattered her prized plaything without a clue to mend it. What's on your mind, sweetie? Dad. How he'd view me with dismay if he saw the mess I've made of things. Your dad adored you deeply, Angela. He'd comprehend. No, Mom. He instilled in me duty, respect for kin, selflessness. Yet I chose the reverse. I left my own mother for a deceiver. I traded heirlooms for cash. I wrecked all he'd amassed. For the first time since her comeback, regret rang true in her tone. It went beyond bemoaning fallout. It was real ownership of her ethical lapses. Everyone errs, dear. Key is drawing wisdom from them. But how do I glean that here, Mom? How do I mend what I've broken? That was the query I'd awaited. Angela at last stood poised to confront her deeds and their fallout. Yet the moment hadn't arrived to unveil my ultimate. I needed to allow her to hit absolute bottom before anything else. Those following days proved vital to my scheme. Angela chose to offload nearly all the jewelry, holding on to just the engagement ring from Robert and a modest necklace passed down from her own grandmother. I observed as she geared up for visits to the jewelers, scouted market rates, and haggled with potential purchasers. It stung to see her convert generations of heirlooms into mere business deals. Yet it was essential for her to grasp the true consequences of her choices. "Mom, the jewelry fetched $180,000, she announced one afternoon, stacking the cash across the kitchen table. "It's not as much as I'd hoped, but it'll cover the pressing bills." "Are you certain about this?" "I don't have options. If I don't settle something quickly, they'll seize it all. This place might even be in jeopardy if they link me legally to the assets." The irony hit hard. Angela fretted over a home that was mine, settling the obligations of a fellow who ditched her, using proceeds from gems tied to the very guy whose wealth could rescue her. And how will you prioritize which bills to tackle first? I consulted a no-cost advisor at the bank. She advised starting with loans backed by actual assets, since those threaten holdings or spark swift repossessions. In mere weeks, Angela had grown tremendously. The same person who'd pawned my belongings without a word now scrutinized each money move. Her hardships had forged greater accountability, though they left her more vulnerable too. That evening, as she sorted through loan papers at the table, my phone rang. "Mr. Peterson." "Mrs. Brooks, I've got key updates. We've tracked down Edward." "Where?" "Paris, exactly as your daughter figured. But get this, he's pursuing French citizenship via a sham wedding to that girl she described." "A sham?" "Indeed. Seems she wants legal status and he wants to linger in Europe without expulsion. Crucially, though, we've uncovered proof he intentionally doctored your daughter's paperwork to bolt the country. That clears Angela from the debts. With this, we can demonstrate deceit and duress. She won't owe a dime for his secret schemes." It couldn't have been better. Now I could legally free Angela from her burdens without her realizing I had the funds all along. "Mr. Peterson, launch the proceedings right away. Keep it from my daughter for now. I want it wrapped up entirely before sharing. No point in raising empty expectations." "Got it. Expect 3 weeks, possibly a month." "Excellent." As I ended the call, Angela eyed me inquisitively. "Who was that, Mom?" "Just someone inquiring about Mrs. Davis, the neighbor around the bend. Wrong number." Deception flowed effortlessly these days. With each passing moment, I grew at ease in this split existence. To her, I was the destitute, forsaken parent she imagined. In truth, I was affluent, quietly directing her rescue and growth. For the ensuing 2 weeks, I saw Angela grapple with choices she'd never faced, budgeting groceries tightly, bargaining with lenders, hunting employment amid a wrecked credit record. It was harsh schooling, but indispensable. "Mom, I hit 3 interviews today," she shared one night, trudging in with aching feet and an exhausted expression. 2 passed because of my ongoing court issues. The other dangled a night shift gig scrubbing offices part-time. "Will you accept?" "No alternative. The pay's meager, but it's something, and nights leave days free for better prospects." Watching my daughter, accustomed to ease for over 4 decades, brace for nocturnal janitorial duties, tore at me. Yet it sparked admiration too. At last she confronted life head-on, sans reliance on others' fixes. "Think you can manage that labor?" "I'll adapt. I won't keep weighing you down, Mom. It's tough enough you're housing me rent-free." "This is your place, Angela." "No, Mom, yours really, and I'm here on your kindness, but I won't exploit it indefinitely." One evening, during Angela's debut cleaning job, Aurora dropped by. She joined me in the kitchen over tea, gazing at the wall-hung family snapshots. "Antonia, I must inquire. Did you anticipate Angela returning like this?" "Like what?" "You know, When she departed, she brimmed with confidence, downright haughty. She boasted of her fabulous European adventure, Edward's triumphs. It used to be that way. Now she's returned, utterly shattered, taking on a housekeeping role and staying under your roof once more. Life has its twists and turns. Aurora, that's true, but there's more to it. Lately, I've been observing Angela, and she seems changed. It's not merely sorrow, it's a quiet humility, like she's grasped a vital lesson. Aurora was always sharp like that. What do you suppose that lesson is? I believe she came to appreciate the worth of what she'd overlooked, such as a parent who adores her without conditions. Perhaps. Aurora, mind if I share something with you? When Angela departed and mistreated you so harshly, plenty of folks figured you'd never let it go. Yet here you are, looking after her once again, offering her shelter when she has no other place. She's my child, Aurora. Sure, but not every parent would step up like you are, particularly after the way she hurt you. If only Aurora understood the full story, that I possess the means to fix every one of Angela's troubles, yet I opted to let her endure a bit more so the teaching would sink in deeply. Do you feel I'm handling this correctly? I reckon you're acting like a devoted parent should, though I also believe Angela must fully grasp what she threw away by walking out on you. What are you getting at? She ought to cherish you, not only as the mom who bails her out of messes, but as the resilient individual who crafted a solid existence over 45 years. She should honor you, beyond just relying on you. Aurora had pinpointed it perfectly. That was the core of my whole strategy. I didn't want Angela returning to me in sheer panic. I hoped she'd return with real admiration and grown-up affection. And how might that come about? I sense it's underway already. Over these recent days, I've noticed her with you, Antonia. Her manner of speaking to you has shifted entirely. She's not that same kid dictating demands or viewing you as a hassle anymore. Instead, she's an adult woman who truly appreciates having a parent like you. That evening, as Angela got home from work, I watched her come in exhausted, yet carrying a fresh sense of pride. She'd earned that small sum through her own labor, and it held real meaning for her. How'd your initial shift go? Tough, but better than I'd feared. The women on the team were really supportive to me. One, Mrs. Johnson, showed me shortcuts for getting the cleaning done faster. Mrs. Johnson, huh? Yeah, she's 60 and has been scrubbing offices for 20 years. She mentioned starting out after her spouse abandoned her with 3 young kids. She admits it's not her ideal career, but it brought her self-reliance and self-respect. Sounds like a smart lady. She is. She shared something that gave me pause. She explained there are 2 kinds of folks who wind up in this line of work: those who never got a fair shot and those who squandered the chances they were given. She wondered which category fit me. And how'd you respond? I was honest. I'd had every advantage imaginable: a loving household, a secure place to live, a family fortune, and I blew it all chasing after a no-good guy. What was her reply? She chuckled and said, "Well, dear, at least you understand precisely why you're in this spot. That gives you an edge over most." Angela grabbed a glass of water and joined me at the kitchen table. "Mom, there's something I need you to hear. These last few weeks have been the toughest I've ever faced, but they've also been the most meaningful." How so? Because I've come to realize what truly counts. It's not wealth. It's not residing in some fancy high-rise. It's not dazzling others. It's possessing folks who care about you deeply, who stick around when it all crumbles. Angela, no. Hold on, let me say this. You have every reason to resent me for how I hurt you. I deserted you at your lowest point. I claimed everything Dad had willed to you. I acted like you were just an annoyance. And now, here I am, anticipating your pardon and your support. I've already let it go, sweetie, but I can't forgive my own actions yet, not until I show that I've really transformed, that I've absorbed the errors I made. The following morning, Mr. Peterson reached out. Mrs. Brooks, I've got great updates. The paperwork is nearly finalized. We can free your daughter from all of Edward's debts. The timing felt right. After observing Angela battle through her challenges, labor hard, and ponder her regrets for weeks, the instant had come to reveal she'd never truly been on her own, that a silent guardian had been there all along. Mr. Peterson, please set up a session. My daughter deserves to learn the entire story. Mr. Peterson scheduled it for Friday morning in his office. I mentioned to Angela that I'd booked a session with an attorney who might assist with her legal issues without going into specifics. She consented to attend, though she fretted over the fee. Mom, I can't afford an attorney right now. I'm scraping by just for the essentials. No need to stress over that, sweetie. For now, let's simply listen to what he has to say. We made it to Mr. Peterson's office right on schedule. Angela had put on her nicest outfit, though it hung a bit loose now on her slimmer frame. She fidgeted anxiously, twisting her fingers, bracing for yet another blow in her string of misfortunes. Mr. Peterson welcomed us with his standard courteous grin. Mrs. Brooks, Miss Brooks, appreciate you making the time. Thanks for fitting us in, Angela responded. Just so you know, though, my money troubles are a real mess, and I doubt I can cover steep costs. That's precisely the topic at hand, Mr. Peterson replied, glancing my way. But before we dive in, please go over these papers. He passed Angela a hefty stack of files. She flipped it open and started scanning the contents, her face shifting slowly from bewilderment to astonishment. This doesn't make sense. These papers claim Edward faked my signature, that there's proof of deceit, and that the debts aren't on me. Correct, he confirmed. We've been digging into your situation over the last couple of weeks. We've gathered solid proof that you fell victim to identity theft. But how? Who's footing the bill for all this sleuthing? I can't afford it. Mr. Peterson turned to me. It was my cue. Angela, I have to share something with you. What is it, Mom? I drew in a steadying breath. After all those weeks of pretense, I was ready to lay it all out. Your father left me far more than you realized. Way more. What are you getting at, Mr. Peterson? Let her see the rest of the files. He pulled out another binder and slid it over to Angela. Inside were the titles to real estate, financial records, stock holdings, every bit of the hidden wealth Robert had amassed. Angela pored over them quietly for a good while. Her features cycled through a whirlwind of feelings: puzzlement, denial, stunned realization, and at last, clarity. Mom, this indicates you're the proprietor of the apartment building where I stayed. That's right. And that you've got additional real estate, savings, portfolios. Indeed. So when I offloaded the seaside home, it was actually yours, and the transaction was bogus. I've reclaimed it already. Angela gazed at the documents, struggling to absorb it all. How long have you been aware? From the moment you phoned me from the clinic. You had this knowledge even when I returned from Europe begging for aid. Yes. You understood you could fix everything while watching me sob each evening. Yes. A heavy, awkward quiet stretched out. Angela shut the binders and met my gaze head on. Why, Mom, why allow me to endure all that pain when you had the means to step in? This was the moment I'd anticipated for ages, because you had to grasp a lesson no other path could teach you. Like what? You had to appreciate the worth of what you'd squandered, the worth of kin, of honor, of duty. When you walked away from me, it wasn't merely funds you stripped away. It was self-respect. It was affection. It was faith. Angela's eyes welled up, but these weren't the pitiful drops she'd spilled lately. These were born of profound insight. I left you at your lowest point. Yes, I discarded you like trash. Yes, and still you pulled me through. Yes, though not as you imagined. I didn't rescue you with cash to fuel your old errors. I rescued you by permitting you to crash fully, so you'd discover how to lift yourself up. Mr. Peterson stepped in gently. Miss Brooks, Your mother has covered every legal cost to clear you of Edward's obligations. She's also regained all the assets disposed of improperly. You're entirely clear of any judicial entanglements. And that janitorial position I landed, You can walk away from it if you'd like, I added, though I hope you stick with it. Why? Because it's imparting a skill you missed out on during the good times. It's showing you the merit of your labor, the pride in upright employment, the need to cherish every cent you make through sweat. Angela brushed away her tears and regarded me with a gaze I hadn't witnessed in ages. It wasn't the plea of a child seeking solace from her parent, but the steady respect of one adult woman for another. Do you pardon me, Mom? I've long since pardoned you, sweetheart. The real issue is, can you pardon yourself? I'm not sure. I committed acts beyond redemption. Folks err, Angela. What counts is our response once we own up to them. Mr. Peterson gave us the room, stepping out briefly. Angela and I remained seated wordlessly, sifting through the revelations. Mom, I need you to hear this. Even without this wealth, even if you'd truly been the destitute widow I pictured, I'd have absorbed the identical insight. Which one? That nothing tops the gift of unwavering love. Over these recent weeks, what anchored me was the certainty of a refuge with you. No matter how thoroughly I'd wrecked things, you stayed my mother. That won't ever shift, Angela. I get that, but I also realize I won't take our bond for granted anymore. I must prove it daily through respect, appreciation, and deeds, not mere promises. We exited Mr. Peterson's office with our connection utterly transformed. Gone was the tie of parent and child bound by lineage and routine. Instead, we stood as two mature women who had deliberately selected one another after enduring an unimaginable ordeal. The ensuing weeks focused on reconstruction, yet not in the manner Angela anticipated. Despite realizing I possessed ample means to resolve her troubles, she opted to retain her evening janitorial position. Mom, I have to see through what I began, she explained one evening while preparing for her shift. I can't simply revert to ease as though the past never occurred. Are you certain? You shouldn't keep tormenting yourself indefinitely. This isn't torment. It's a reminder of my former self and the person I aspire to become. I observed her donning her uniform for the job, once inconceivable mere months earlier, back when she resided in Edward's opulent condominium. Yet her stance had shifted, along with her movements. She no longer resembled the shattered figure who had shown up at my doorstep in tears. She had discovered self-worth in straightforward labor. That evening, Aurora dropped by, continuing her regular visits every couple of days since Angela's comeback. Antonia, odd whispers are circulating in the community. What sort of whispers? Folks claim you're far wealthier than anyone imagined. Someone spotted Angela emerging from a swanky attorney's suite in the city center, followed by her clearing every outstanding bill at the bank. People chatter endlessly, Aurora. True, but now they're murmuring that you've reclaimed your seaside property and somehow sorted out all of Angela's legal woes. That demands serious funds. Antonia. Aurora understood me too deeply to deceive her for long. What precisely do you wish to learn? I need to know if my companion of 4 decades has been deceiving me about her circumstances. I brewed myself some tea and settled opposite her. The moment had arrived to confide in another soul. Robert bequeathed me far more than others realized. Aurora, substantially more. How much more? Sufficient for Angela and me to never fret over finances again. Aurora paused briefly, absorbing the details. And why feign hardship these past months? Because I required Angela to grasp a lesson unattainable otherwise, I revealed the entire tale to her. Angela's harsh call, my scheme of quiet retribution, the periods observing her plummet to despair, and ultimately the disclosure in Mr. Peterson's office. Antonia, that's ingenious and cruel simultaneously. Cruel indeed. Yes, since you permitted your daughter to endure when you could have aided her right away. Yet ingenious, too, as I see your reasoning. You do, absolutely. Angela had to comprehend the worth of what she'd forfeited. Had you merely handed her funds to fix her issues, she'd have realized there's perpetually a savior from her poor choices' fallout. Precisely. But Antonia, didn't witnessing her pain wound you. Each day, each evening, I beheld her sobs. Each dawn, I watched her rise weary and vanquished for work. Still, I recognized that intervening prematurely would rob her of the complete insight. And do you believe she absorbed it? Judge for yourself. Angela is aware she holds access to wealth for a secure existence, yet she elected to hold onto her employment. She knows she could relocate to finer quarters, but chose to remain here alongside me. She understands her debts are cleared, yet she's dipping into her personal earnings to assist fellow women in comparable binds. She's aiding others. Indeed, she befriended her colleagues at work and is channeling part of her office cleaning income to support a teammate struggling with her child's childcare costs. Aurora grinned. That's hardly the Angela who jetted off to Europe. No, it isn't. This version of Angela grasps that wealth serves as an instrument, not an objective. She recognizes that honor stems from effort and esteem, not belongings. That evening, upon Angela's return from her shift, she discovered me absorbed in a book in the den. "Mom, there's something I must share. Today, Mrs. Johnson inquired if I was the offspring of that affluent woman from the upscale district. What was your response?" I confirmed it, that you possess ample resources so I wouldn't need to labor. And do you know her follow-up question? What? She wondered why I continued working, so I clarified that it's to demonstrate to myself I can support my independence. And her reply, she chuckled and remarked, "Darling, that's the distinction between wealth and pretense. Your mother showed you authentic prosperity." Mrs. Johnson holds great insight. She does. And she helped me realize a vital truth. It concerns not the funds you possess, but their application and your attitude toward them. Angela joined me on the couch. "Mom, I want you to understand I've reached a choice. I'll continue residing here with you, but not merely as a child who she's returned to live with her parents. I intend to remain here as an adult woman who decides to build her life alongside her mother. What's the distinction? The key difference is that I'll cover my portion of the household costs. I'll pitch in for maintaining the home, and I'll approach this bond as an equal alliance between two self-reliant women who cherish and honor one another." Angela, it's not necessary. Actually, it is. Mom, I require our connection to evolve beyond how it used to be. In the past, I was a child who accepted her mother's affection and support without appreciation. These days, I aim to be a mature individual who appreciates and nurtures the most vital tie in her existence, and your employment. I'll continue my job, though not indefinitely scrubbing offices. I plan to resume my education. I want to equip myself for pursuits that carry deeper significance in my future. Still, I'll advance gradually, seizing each chance through my own efforts. Do you know what field you'd like to pursue? Absolutely, I'm interested in social work. The recent weeks have shown me just how many folks endure hardships without any backing. I wish to leverage our available means to assist other women facing the trials I once did. It couldn't have gone better. Angela had gained a profound respect for her blessings and discovered a path to channel her ordeals into positive action. As for Edward, Mr. Peterson informed me that authorities in France detained him over the sham wedding. He'll face deportation shortly, but truthfully, Mom, it no longer matters to me. That chapter has closed. You harbor no bitterness. None at all. Unwittingly, Edward granted me a gift. Without his desertion and deceit, I wouldn't have reached my lowest point. And without that nadir, I wouldn't have come to genuinely treasure my circumstances. That evening, for the first time in ages, I retired feeling utterly serene. The strategy had succeeded beyond expectations. Angela hadn't just absorbed the essential insights, she'd risen from it more resilient, insightful, and empathetic. Robert would have beamed with pride. 6 months on, our daily rhythm had settled into an unforeseen harmony neither of us had envisioned. Angela completed her social work coursework with top marks, and I chose to allocate part of my assets toward launching a nonprofit aiding women trapped in abusive homes or left destitute. "Mom, the university's response came today," Angela announced one morning, entering the kitchen clutching an envelope. "They've admitted me to the graduate program. Classes begin next term. But Mom, I need you to understand. I'll fund it myself from what I've set aside. I've been stashing earnings from my municipal position. The pay's modest, yet she'd mastered thriving on basics and prizing each cent she brought in. Are you certain? We could cover the grad tuition without issue. I realize that. But forging my own path is essential now. It's integral to my identity." Aurora dropped by that afternoon, following her weekly Friday ritual of the last several months. She'd evolved into a trusted advisor for us both, observing our growth with keen interest. "Antonia, I must admit something," she said while refilling her tea. "Initially, I viewed your approach to Angela as quite harsh, and your opinion now, these days I see you as the most astute parent I've encountered. Just observe your daughter. Truly, take a good look." She was spot on. The Angela poring over exam materials in the lounge bore little resemblance to the one who'd departed for Europe seasons earlier. This version of Angela radiated an inner calm, a self-assurance rooted in her personal successes rather than worldly goods. "Did you hear?" I spotted Angela at the market the other day, selecting produce for a household she's supporting via her role. She hadn't mentioned it to me. When I inquired why she dipped into her personal funds rather than agency allocations, she explained that certain gestures defy bureaucratic tallies. That evening, Angela and I shared a meal on the veranda, a ritual we'd established. It served as our moment to recount the day's events, outline tomorrow's goals, and savor mutual presence. "Mom, I got an odd note today," she remarked, slicing into her greens. "Who sent it?" "Edward." My body stiffened. "Edward. He contacted you. From where?" "From a French jail. It seems he drew a 2-year term for the bogus union. In his message, he expresses remorse for his actions and seeks my pardon. What are your thoughts on it? Frankly, it stirs nothing in me. No fury, no sorrow, no urge to retaliate. It feels like ancient history, not recent events." "Will you reply?" "No, not out of animosity, but because words are superfluous. The woman who wed him is gone. This Angela shares no common ground with him. Her poise struck me deeply. The individual before me had cultivated a profound resilience, born from plummeting to her depths and rising anew, standing on her own 2 feet. You know what this entire ordeal showed me, Mom? What? That real love doesn't just echo back what you hope to hear. Real love pushes you to grasp what you truly need to know, even if it stings. It's a tough pill to swallow, but an essential one at that. Edward fed me the flattery I craved. He made me feel cherished. He persuaded me I merited a lavish existence without lifting a finger. But you showed me that genuine riches stem from diligence, honor, and sincere bonds. That evening, once Angela headed to her bedroom to hit the books, I settled on the veranda by myself, gazing at the night sky and reflecting on Robert. I'd vowed to him that I'd look after our girl, and at last I sensed I'd honored that commitment properly. I hadn't protected her by handing over cash whenever she hit a rough patch. I'd protected her by guiding her to handle her own affairs. I hadn't rescued her by fixing her troubles. I'd rescued her by letting her figure out how to tackle them independently. The following morning was Sunday, and we'd arranged our first trip back to the seaside cottage since reclaiming it. Angela had resisted going earlier, claiming she required space to digest all the upheaval. "You set?" I inquired as we climbed into the pickup. "Pretty much." The drive passed in quiet ease. Upon pulling up, Angela lingered in the vehicle for a beat, staring at the spot where we'd shared countless summer vacations as a family. "It hasn't altered a bit," she remarked at length. "Certain elements endure. while others evolve. I'm not the woman who let this place go anymore. We stepped inside side by side. The interior was spotless and orderly, just as Robert and I had maintained it over the decades. Angela wandered room to room, running her fingers over the furnishings and eyeing the framed family snapshots adorning the walls. "Mom, I need to say sorry." "You've already done that, sweetheart." "No, this one's aimed right at this home. Not merely for offloading it, but for boiling down our shared family history to a mere business deal. It's all water under the bridge. This place holds 4 decades of summer getaways, milestone celebrations, holiday gatherings. Dad crafted that deck himself. You nurtured that flower bed. I mastered swimming off that shoreline. And I swapped it all for cash to bankroll a deadbeat's whims." She sank onto the couch where Robert would lounge with a book on lazy Sunday dawns. "You realize what's cutting deepest?" "What?" "That unloading it back then left me numb. It felt like flipping another asset. Returning now, though, I sense Dad everywhere in these walls. His chuckles echo, the aroma of his brew wafts, his specs rest on the side table like always. He's present, Angela. He's never left. I get that. And I realize he's beaming at how you've navigated this mess. We passed the day there, whipping up meals, tidying up, and mending minor fixes. It felt like a ceremony of renewal, linking us not only to the space, but to the principles it embodied. As dusk approached, we claimed seats on the deck Robert constructed, watching the waves roll in. "Mom, I've got an idea to pitch." "Shoot." "Let's convert this spot into a short-term haven for women escaping abusive homes, a safe haven as they piece their worlds back together." It was an ideal notion. Robert would have adored envisioning his coastal retreat aiding other households. "That's a wonderful plan, dear. We could tap into foundation funds for upkeep, and I could manage the initiative via my role." "You positive about morphing our private retreat into that, Mom? The truest refuges are those extended to others. Dad used to say a dwelling doesn't become a true haven until it welcomes strangers in search of warmth." Spot on. Robert was ever open-handed with our space, hosting kin, pals, and folks down the street who needed a roof. We headed back that evening with fresh ambitions and a bond fully revitalized. No longer were we just parent and child bound by duty or circumstance. We stood as 2 individuals deliberately forging a shared path rooted in affection, esteem, and mutual goals. That night, drifting toward sleep, I conversed with Robert wordlessly. "We pulled it off, darling. Our girl at last sees what's paramount." And for the inaugural time post his passing, I felt his reply. "I always trusted you'd manage. You're tougher than you realize." Resolution came not through vengeance, but through insight, not via penalty, but via growth. Ultimately, we'd both acquired far more precious than fortune. We'd forged a real connection, anchored on bedrock no coming storm could shatter. Enjoyed the tale. And from which town are you tuning in? Drop by in the comments to connect. If the story resonated, show some love with a super. Thanks to fuel more narratives like this. Grateful for your kind backing. Eager for your thoughts below. Check the display for 2 fresh personal accounts I suggest checking out. You'll discover tons more on this channel. Be sure to hit subscribe. Catch you in the next life tale. With affection and admiration.